Hello everyone, this is the bonus podcast for episode 470. Apparently, of Coronation Conversation.
Yes,
oh,
that
God.
is us.
Oh, damn it.
You've rehearsed that and everything.
I don't rehearse it. You just, before we record, you used to say, right, you have to say this specifically.
Yeah, when it's Gemma's turn to start, I was like, this is what you need to say. These are your first words,
I don't see
Gemma.
that this is that important. It's the bonus episode. It's a bonus podcast.
What are we talking about this week, Gemma?
We're talking about Tricia Armstrong.
We are, an air of mystery. Tricia Armstrong.
Who knows who she is?
Well, that's a good way of putting it, because I think that she's a really, really forgotten character. She was in the show for, 3 years or so, I mean, on and off in the mid-90s, and I really, really do think that she's not there in the Corrie conscious, is she? If you think of classic Coronation Street characters, Tricia Armstrong does not appear in anybody's top 10, but I quite like her.
Should have looked to see where she was on the...
on the Corriepedia Ultimate Character Survey. Yeah, but I don't know whether people ever really remember her, so it's going to be our job today to bring you up to speed if you don't know anything about Tricia and why. She wasn't an half bad character, actually. And the reason that we're mentioning this, of course, this week is that the actress who portrayed her, Tracy Brabin, has recently been elected Mayor of West Yorkshire. Don't you know?
So do we get anything for that?
I don't know.
Does she give handouts to people
who talk about her,
who are involved in the show that really propelled her to?
Is she going to invite us for tea at the town hall of West Yorkshire? I think it's a bit of a trip, really, isn't it?
I'll go. I don't mind.
Yeah, you go. You have to drive. I'm not driving.
Oh, okay, well, we'll talk about it then.
So Tricia Armstrong was a funny one, because I started watching around the time that she first appeared in it, in the mid-90s. And then I think almost as soon as she left, I forgot about her. And then a few years later, I had a Coronation Street book, and there was a picture of her arguing with Vera, I think, on the front. I was somewhere inside, and I was like, oh yeah, it was her. Who was she? Well, and I literally didn't remember anything about her. And I know this is kind of sounding quite damning of the character. I don't know what it is about her. I mean, I don't think she's not the sort of character who had, the big stories, the big partnerships, the big anything really. But having watched her back on the classic episodes on ITV3, I was expecting to just, have her sail on past and make no impression of me, like a few characters have, to be fair. But actually, when I watched her, I thought, no, I like her. She's like a proper, honest northern woman who goes through all these. She portrays kind of a real working class, down on her luck, single parent, but not in a cliche sort of way. I think
struggle.
It is. It was just somebody who I think really represented a lot of women back in the mid-90s, the single parents who just had to, put up with a load of rubbish when the dice hasn't rolled in your favour, really.
I think the 90s was when really people began to become properly conscious on a higher level of non-nuclear families actually existing and not going away, people who got divorced and single women or single fathers raising their children. And I think that because divorce rates were going up, obviously, but I also think that the powers that be were kind of just ignore them and they'll go away. You know what I mean? Whereas obviously that's totally normal way of raising a family these days, and I don't think there's stigma against it. Certainly struggle is still continuing. It's not easier it's not easy at all, but I think that the stigma of raising your children has gone away a little bit. But when this was in the 90s, that still sort of was continuing, wasn't it?
I think so. And even thinking of other Coronation Street characters, a lot of the women of her age would come into the show as part of a married couple, exactly, or somebody who's single, ready to mingle, no kids and anything, and the heartbreaker, the one who's turning all the men's heads and everything.
Well, did you look up? Did they say anything about her being introduced specifically to represent single?
Yeah. I've got a few little quotes down the bottom that we'll get to,
because the 90s was kind of like an expansion of that kind of thing on Coronation Street too. You know, different types of families. That's why you have the Battersbys as well.
Yeah, exactly. And along with Tricia Armstrong, we have...
And I just want to say, it's not as though Coronation Street never explored diverse groups of people before this, but it was more like the way that society was moving towards this being more of a normal situation to be in. So Coronation Street represented it, because if you look back on it, you had like Elsie, who was a very untraditional woman.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Right from the very beginning.
She was single, and she had grown up.
Well, she had grown up children, yeah, but she definitely. But then, you know, she suffered the stigma of the society looking down on her because of what she got up to. That minx.
That's true. That's true.
But yes, I didn't want to make it seem as though Coronation Street has underrepresented people on purpose. But I do think that it's part of the show, just always having its finger on the pulse. That it explored different types of family groups like this.
Yeah, I agree.
But this was overdue, I think.
Yes. So Tricia Armstrong was born on the 22nd of February 1960. She got married to Carl Armstrong, and with him
Did it go well?
not so good. Well, I must have been happy for some point, because she had a kid together with him, Jamie, who was born in 1984. And although this isn't a character profile of Jamie, and I don't think we're ever actually going to end up doing one of him.
Depends on how many years we could do this for.
Yeah, I know. I won't say scraping the bottom of the barrel, actually, because he was another one that when I watched it back, I was like, I really like this kid.
He was spunky.
He was like the Bart Simpson, wasn't he? He had the spiky hair, the cheeky attitude.
Is this not like another example of Coronation Street? Coronation Street is really good at taking what's popular in popular culture,
the zeitgeist, isn't
and kind of like using a little bit of that for themselves. So that kind of like rebellious boy character.
He was a scallywag, but he wasn't.
But then again, that's nothing new. Bart Simpson is just one in a many long line of scampy little boys.
Yeah, but with a good heart as well. And I would say that's the same with Bart Simpson as well. And although he was a bit of a ne'er-do-well, and he was always on the rob or whatever, and trying to
about Bart Simpson or Jamie?
A bit of both.
On the rob.
He had a good heart, and he loved his mum, and the bond between Trisha and Jamie was really, really lovely, actually.
Petition to make a regional version of The Simpsons, because God knows why we haven't had our own version. They had the American office, we want the English Simpsons, and we want it to be based on Jamie and Tricia Armstrong.
Yeah, I don't know.
Why not? I can't see a reason why not.
Well, now Corrie has got a mayor among its ex-cast members. Maybe we can get right on that, because I'm sure that... Yeah, exactly. So Tricia first appeared on Coronation Street on the 7th of March 1994 and last appeared on the 2nd of May 1997. And that was only after 193 episodes. And as we said before, she was played by Tracy Brabin, which I keep having to train myself to say the right way, because I think I've gone many years of thinking that name has been pronounced Brabin. And it was only... I think it was probably last Christmas when she was on, she went to Parliament and she did that amazing speech about Coronation Street.
Oh yes, for the 60th.
For the 60th anniversary. We'll talk a bit more about that later as well. But I thought, I've been saying her name wrong all this time, right. And I don't know why. But we also used to call her Brabbers, affectionately. But it doesn't. I think she'll always be Brabbers to me.
Mayor Brabbers.
Yeah.
She was 172nd. on the coronationsstreet.fandom.com's Ultimate Character Survey, which took place last year. That's down from 167. She does beat out Nicola Rubinstein and Brian Tilsley, but not Gloria Todd or Gary Windass. So Gary Windass was 170.
Okay, fine. Okay, so...
I think I'm reading that right.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. I trust your statistic,
I'm not very
your
good.
number crunching.
I'm excellent at reading, but the numbers game completely eludes me.
So this wasn't the first character that Tracy had actually played in Coronation Street. She was in 2 episodes in 1989, and we watched one of those when we did our DVD rewatch last year. She was like this flirty co-worker of Derek Wilton's at the... Chuckles Novelty Company Christmas party. Do you remember? You must remember the episode where Derek gets drunk, falls asleep, dressed as Father Christmas, and then has to shimmy along the wall. Up along the next. It's like 3 or 4 or 5 stories up, and Jack Duckworth sees him and thinks he's seen Santa. But before all that, he had been getting drunk with this other character that Tracy played called Chloe. And she was being a bit flirty with him, sitting on his knee and everything. But I remember watching that again in the ITV3 repeats, and I was really confused for a little bit. I was like, is that supposed to be Trisha? I didn't realise she was in it so soon, but no, she had been somebody else. And there's been quite a few characters actually, haven't there, who've got their doppelgangers in Coronation Street, shall we say?
Well, it's also like sometimes people are just like in it as a bit part, and they're like, let's evolve this character into a bigger part, and sometimes it doesn't work, and sometimes it does. And well, I think a lot of the time it's just retconning back, saying, "Oh yeah, that was the same person."
Well, I don't think that this is the case in this case. I think Chloe and Trisha are definitely two different people. They just look really similar. So before that appearance on Coronation Street, Tracy had a couple of other TV roles, including Panto Time in 1986, and in 1989 she played a character called Sandra in A Bit of a Do, which is a teleseries. And interestingly, I think I'd quite like to see this, in the 1992 film Charles and Diana Unhappily Ever After, she played Princess Fergie.
Who is Princess Fergie?
You know, Sarah Ferguson.
Do you mean the Duchess of York?
Sarah Ferguson.
She wasn't a princess.
Well, I don't understand these things. I bow down to your greater knowledge.
Well, technically, if you're married to a prince, you're a princess. But if you're given a different title, that supersedes.
Okay, well, she did anyway, so I don't know, but
that
you
seems
can check
like
that out.
that seems like something that might get awkward. She ever has a royal reception.
That's very
as the
true. Okay, so let's run down and see what Trisha got up to during her time on Coronation Street. In 1994, she was only in it for 6 episodes. Again, we saw a fair bit of this recently,
the first
didn't
one.
we? Yeah. Well, do you want to talk a bit about this?
Well, she was in. I saw all this go down. This was so dramatic. I nearly dropped my can of peaches. She was in Better Buys. And Jamie gets accused of shoplifting, running around all over the place, nicking things.
She gets called into Curly's office, doesn't she?
He's the deputy, is the assistant to the regional manager. He's the Better Buys peon, or whatever that is.
I can't remember whether he was deputy or manager there. I can't remember where Reg was at that point.
He has to call, I think Reg was still there. He calls her in and, she finagles, and they end up dating.
Yeah.
Because, I guess Curly was
it's quite the catch.
Curly was going on the process of he can't beat him, join him. It's like, can I stop this kid from nicking? No. But I could eat the stuff he brings home if I get in with her. Win-win. Also, so they're dating, and then Trisha asks Jack to babysit her little scrote while they're out on a date.
I would say oik.
Okay.
Miscreant.
Jack is so funny as the babysitter because he's clearly not suitable. What would you ever ask Jack to look after even your dog? Because you come home and he'd be like, "Yeah, dog was fine. One second place on the races." So anyway, he's babysitting the kid, and then her ex-husband Carl comes round for a pleasant chat. But he thinks that Jack is dating Trisha. I think he gets confused because he knows Trisha's dating somebody. Yeah. So he sees Jack there looking after the kid, immediately assumes that it's him and lays him out. And then he also goes looking for Curly at Better Buys, does evil Carl. And Curly hides, and then he's like, "Trisha, this is too much heat for me. I don't want to do this again."
And that's the last we saw of Trisha in 1994, wasn't it? It was quite cool that the Jack and Jamie friendship that developed over the years was quite nice as well, because Jamie really took a shine to Jack's pigeons, because like I said, he was he was a kind soul, but just,
Who?
Jamie, yeah. He was just, led down the pathway of...
Well, this is the thing. Trisha was very busy and also slightly disengaged.
Well, because she was a busy working mum, wasn't she?
Yeah, she cared about him, but she didn't have time to supervise him at every moment and turn every single mini disaster into a teachable moment.
Yeah, and I think with Jack's influence over the years, it helped keep Jamie on the straight and narrow.
There's something really charming, and I don't know if it's just us Brits that enjoy this or if it's
universal,
but something really charming about a gruff old man and a little child having some kind of weird
bonding over pigeons.
What is it? Goodnight, Uncle Tom. Is that one?
Did that Mr. Tom?
Mr. Tom, yeah.
Yeah, similar. I get it.
There's quite a lot of things like that, isn't there? In old, not so much recently, because I think people are like, don't know about this.
Bit dodgy.
I haven't heard any headlines about Mr. Tom turning out to have been a kiddie fiddler, but you know what? I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest, these days.
In 1995, Tricia returns to the area. Now, she wants somewhere to live and thinks that the cafe flat, above Jim's cafe, would be perfect for her and Jamie. Alma, who is the owner of the flat at the time, isn't so sure, though, because it's only a one-bedroom flat and it's going to be Tricia and Jamie living in there, so she doesn't think it's really suitable. So she kind of works on Mike and gets him to let Tricia move into number one, because at this time, I can't remember how or why it happened. Mike ends up owning number one. Did Deirdre sell it to him or something? I can't remember. But anyway, Mike's the landlord. Tricia's moving into number one. Straight away, she gets on the wrong side of Vera, who suspects that she's having an affair with Jack as well, because of the whole Carl thumping incident.
Probably going down the old "where there's smoke, there's fire" kind of adage.
Vera was a bit of a jealous woman, a bit like Hilda. I think Hilda was even more so, wasn't she? She always thought that people had their eye on her, women had their eye on her Stan.
Aww.
But Vera could do it as well.
It's her prized possession.
But in any case, Tricia ends up getting a job cleaning in the Rovers, which makes things kind of uncomfortable for Jack, who's the cellarman there, and also Raquel, because...
Why does it make things uncomfortable for Jack? Just because of Vera getting mad?
Yeah, exactly.
Because she wasn't be told about this.
Yeah, I think so. So Raquel, it was difficult for her, because although she wasn't going out with Curly at that point, I think this was a few months after the whole name a star after you, let's get married, oh no, actually I love Des kind of incident. But yeah, because of their shared history with Curly, and Tricia had been dating Curly, and Raquel still cares about him.
Just doesn't get on with him.
Just doesn't get on, basically. So in the end, though, Vera and Raquel end up taking pity on Tricia, because she tells them about Carl beating her up in the past. So sad. Victim of domestic abuse.
This is what people complain about also with female characters in modern pop culture being like having rape as part of their character development. And this happens quite a lot. Like Game of Thrones is one of the most famous ones where and this, this is another example of, it really was only in there to make them feel sorry for her, in a way.
Yeah.
It wasn't really treated the same way that it would be treated now. But
no,
you
I don't
can say
think
that about
so.
lots of things.
It wasn't an issue there, was it?
No.
I don't think. Vera tries to do a bit of matchmaking between Curly and Tricia, which she ends up finding pretty uncomfortable. And then she gets the sack from the Rovers because she just turns up late all the time, basically. She gets a job for a little bit at the corner shop. Reg,
just working behind the counter.
Yeah, Reg takes her on. Morge is also not impressed by her. Morge. Well, I think lots of people look down on Tricia. And I know Coronation Street is about, the working class and everything, but I think even Tricia was just that little, strata below.
Well, this is what we do this as well. I'm guilty of this, lumping everybody in the same group. But working class people are not a completely unified group of people that are all exactly the same. And Coronation Street's always had this weird snobbery where there's a definite kind of these are the normal people, and then everyone below them are a bunch of dirty scrubbers, and everyone above them are just posho bastards.
I would probably put Tricia somewhere between the Duckworths and the Battersbys.
Definitely, Battersbys are the lowest point of Coronation Street.
In the end, Maud and Tricia end up bonding over a shared loathing of Reg. I think Maud thinks that maybe she fancies Reg or something, and Tricia's like, not if you're the last man on earth, and Maud's like, oh, I like you.
You've got this good sense.
Yeah, it doesn't last for long anyway, because Maureen has to let her go, so she's no longer needed. She has to start looking for jobs again. Then she gets evicted from number one by Mike. And there's a funny scene where they kind of barricade themselves into number one, and Jamie pours a bowl of water over Mike when he's trying to come in to let them in. That was quite cool. Now, I think that sort of thing helped viewers and the other residents of the street actually warm to Tricia a little bit, to see the rich guy get his comeuppance at the hand of some little oiky teenager.
Yeah.
In the end, Deirdre persuaded Tricia to rent one of Mike's flats in Crimea Street, and this is the other There were like a little bundle of characters that lived there for a bit in the mid-90s, weren't there? This is where Roy first appeared. Deirdre, Tricia, Roy were all living there. And Tricia was causing trouble for a bit by spreading rumours that Deirdre was having an affair with Mike. Again, no smoke without fire there, I think. But in the end, they became friends.
I said that sarcastically because that's one of my most hated sayings.
Oh, sorry.
There's no smoke without fire, because what is a smoke machine then?
Shut up. I think the adage predates smoke machines.
Do you think so?
Yes. 1996, Gemma. Qu'est-ce qui s'est passé?
You started adding French in. Have you noticed this?
No.
You said tout seul
I did.
last time.
I don't know. Just showing off.
And what's Valfas? Is that Latin?
I don't know.
We're so cultural. Do you see some German?
9.
Wow.
Yeah, just like that, yeah.
Didn't even think about it. 1996, she gets into money troubles and she decides to get Mike to try to get Mike to sleep with her.
Yeah, she
in exchange
seduces him
for not charging her rent. He's not interested, which, you know...
That's really... It's kind of sad in a way, isn't it? That,
in a way, yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Women feeling that they have to debase themselves.
Are you trying to do an issues thing now, are you?
Well, I'm not trying to make it an issue thing, because again, it wasn't then, but it...
Was this a serious thing, or was this like, oh, it's funny that Trisha...
No, I don't think it was played
her.
seriously. I think there was increasing sympathy for Trisha as the character went on. I think when she first came into it, she was quite rough. She was quite... She didn't gel with everybody, and I think Coronation Street viewers are like, hang on a minute, who's this? But as we got to learn more and more about, her background, why she was in this situation, the sort of stuff that she had to do, I think she did get a lot more sympathy, and this was, one in a long line of things that she felt she had to do just to try and survive and protect her kid.
She gets banged up for a week because she hasn't paid a TV licence.
Another one.
The TV licence crew make all their money off Coronation Street people, I think.
Yeah, I think that one was done as a little bit of an issues story. Again, not that they really had them much back those days, but I think this is one of the things that Tracy talked about in that parliamentary debate last Christmas.
She's like, I did pay for it.
Just about the fact that back in the night, I don't think people get thrown in prison all these days for not paying your TV licence. So
you just get
fined. What's the point of paying? But back then, this was the sort of thing that happened, and then
That's crazy,
and
really.
it was almost like a tax on the poor, and some people just couldn't afford to pay. And
well, yeah, because look, I don't know if you're not from this country, you wouldn't know, but you need a TV license to be able to watch live broadcast television. So it doesn't matter whether it funds the BBC. So it doesn't matter if you watch BBC or not. If you have a television and it's plugged into the what's it called? Whatever.
Aerial.
Yeah, aerial, and it receives a signal. You have to pay something like, what was it, 100 and something pounds a year. For a TV licence, which really,
that's a lot of money.
There's a lot of debate going on about whether that's appropriate or not, but at the end of the day, if you want John Barrowman running around rubbing his penis on people in Doctor Who,
yeah,
you've got to pay for it somehow, because there's going to be lawsuits coming up. They're going to be expensive. Think of that. So she doesn't have a TV licence. She gets thrown in prison for a week. Jamie gets put in a foster home. See, this is the other thing. Think about the cost to society that this incurred here. You've got a woman who's in prison for a week. You've got to pay for her to have her food. You've got to pay for all of the accommodation for that. You've got to pay for the prison officers. You've got to pay for the policemen to come and get her. You've got to pay for the courts to process her and try her and find her guilty. You've got to pay for the foster home to come and get the kid. Isn't it ridiculous? How much would that cost compared to how much the TV licence costs?
Yeah, exactly.
So he doesn't like this. He's like, this is a waste of public funds. And he runs away and goes to live with Deirdre.
Yeah, he just turns up. It's just so sad. In the middle of the night, he's like, "Can I come and live with you?"
So she comes out of prison.
Yes,
it's only for a week. So what are you moaning about, really? At the end of the day, got a nice experience there on your CV. There's no drawback to Coronation Street
I hope that she went and told Deirdre about it, just to prepare her.
It's fine. It's fine.
You ever get thrown in the slammer, Deirdre, in a couple of years' time, maybe?
Not
so bad, and it's only over it's over after a week.
So,
but to be fair, Deirdre barely lasted much longer than that, to be honest.
Tracy has to give
Trisha
has to give Jamie a good telling off over a puncture repair scam.
Yeah, he goes around telling people that he thinks that he puts punctures in people's bike tyres. and then says or charges them 50p or something to
Look,
fix them.
is that a scam really? Because he say that it wasn't him?
Very industrious.
It's such a shame that he couldn't focus this on like an Alan Sugar-esque type business.
Well, maybe. I mean, who knows what Jamie got up to after 1997?
Maybe he just funded his mother's political career.
Could be Weatherfield's first billionaire by this point.
Could be. He says you're going to get taken into care if we're not careful because this isn't looking good for anybody. She gets in trouble because she's claiming unemployment benefits, but she's actually working as a cleaner for Mike, and he takes pity on her and offers her a job as a machinist. Because in Coronation Street, being machinist is like the lowest rung of the employment ladder, and really you don't need to be able to sew.
No.
Everyone assumes you can.
It's in the genes. It's in the blood. It runs through them, like Newton and Ridley.
She fancies Terry Duckworth when he shows up on the scene. Who wouldn't? She gets drunk one evening and he takes her home. They end up sleeping together. She gets pregnant. Vera is fuming about this. She thinks she's lying about it because, I mean, what woman wouldn't lie about that?
Just trying to get your claws into our turret.
She hunts down Terry. He's run off. She tries to find him in Sheffield, but then she finds out that his from his girlfriend that he's left and he's run off with £1,800. It's a very specific number. Vera comes around to the idea that she's got this baby and it's going to be her grandchild, and she thinks that she and Jack should support Trisha, but then she discovers that Jack has offered to pay for Trisha to have an abortion. But Trisha's like even more determined at this point to keep the baby.
This was all really sweet, wasn't it? Because this is...
Oh, it's really sweet when somebody offers to pay for your abortion.
That bit of it's silly. Now, Vera and her grand maternal instincts, because she's already lost a couple of grandkids, hasn't she? But there was...
well, she's very careless with them.
There was the one that Terry had with Andrea Clayton. There was obviously Tommy as well, and she thinks this could be the opportunity, third time lucky, to be a grandparent. So and after Brad's born, again, it's really sweet. I love Vera as a grandma, but every time something horrible happens and then it gets whipped away.
Yeah. She gets in trouble with Mike at work in the factory because she's not been turning up and she's been getting other people to clock her in. She really is like a sneaky miss, isn't she? Like, I know she's struggling and everything, but like all the things that she ends up doing all just add to her problems.
Yeah.
Don't they? It's one of these things where it's like you're watching somebody just making all the wrong moves and there's nothing you can do.
Mm.
So she hears Carl, her ex-husband, is going to be released from prison. So she goes to visit him and says, when you come out, you can visit Jamie if you want. And he says, you're a slut, and thumps her because she's pregnant. That's nice. Jamie is not happy to hear that Trisha is going to try and divorce Carl as soon as possible. Why she has not before now, God knows. Then Mike sacks Trisha when he finds out she's pregnant, so she moves into the Rovers.
Yeah, I don't think that went down well with the factory workers. He says, oh, it's because you're always late and you're getting other people to clock in for you and everything, but really he didn't want to have to pay for the maternity leave or whatever.
Yeah. Well, this is not a good thing.
No.
Naughty Mike.
1997, then this is Trisha's last year on the street. She gives birth to Brad. He's a bit of a preemie. She goes into labour in the back of the Rovers, so he gets born there. I think Betty's one of the ones that delivers him. I think even Jamie turns up to help deliver his own brother as well. Vera just loves having a baby around the pub again.
Oh, who wouldn't love a baby in a pub?
She goes to Blackpool, which is where the Hortons live, because the Hortons being...
Who are they?
They are the parents of Terry's second kid's wife.
What?
No, second kid's mum. You got
okay.
What's her name? Lisa. Who got run down by a car.
Yeah.
Anyway, basically, she's thinking that they might know where Terry is, basically, but I don't think anything comes of that.
They go what?
But things turn good for Trisha midway through 1997 when she meets Ray Thorpe, the decorator. They start dating. He's like a decent bloke. He's a nice guy, no strings. Just like a solid, reliable, stable relationship, which is what somebody like Trisha really needs. I think she was often attracted to like the bad lads, the people that she thought would protect her, people that would be a bit exciting to her. But in the end of the day, this was a this is just what she needed. So she starts going out with him, and Jack at first wonders if Brad's father is actually Ray, because Terry's name isn't put on the birth certificate. But no, it's not. It's definitely Terry. So Jack encourages Tricia eventually to stick with Ray. Vera is devastated to learn that she may be losing another grandchild because Ray wants to go and move away. But it looks like that they're going to go and have their happy ever after. But just before they leave, there's another spanner thrown in the works when Terry turns up in the Rovers. I mean, he can barely remember Tricia at first, but they end up spending the night together anyway. Tricia just gets confused about who she loves. Is it Terry?
Oh, God.
Is it Ray? I don't know. But then she starts getting really, really clingy with Terry just because of, that the bond with the baby, and Terry just ends up getting completely fed up of how clingy Tricia is and tells her to bog off, basically. So she ends up leaving Weatherfield with Ray and Jamie, and they do live happily ever after. It was
with Brad as well.
Oh yeah, and Brad. Yeah, they left the baby
if you like
in
the
a pool
baby
of beer
that
at the
much,
Rovers.
Vera, you have him.
Yeah, no, that's the end. It's a nice, sweet ending, really, and it's a bit like Becky in a way. A character who was a little bit rough to start with, and although it wasn't exactly as high flying as Becky's exit was, it was
still
nice
a pretty
to know
sweet
that.
End, yeah.
She got what she needed in the end.
I wonder if she'll ever come back.
I don't think so.
Oh.
I don't know. I mean, are they going to have a visit from the Mayor of Yorkshire? Will it be a bit?
It would be really cool if she did that,
meta.
because they've had people visit. They've had little cameos before. They haven't had it for a very long time.
No.
But I think I'd really like it if they did that.
So that was it. So she ended up leaving because
Yeah.
she was actually pregnant with her own second child at that point. Her own child. And
Normally that's the one you give birth to when you're a lady.
your own one.
Yeah.
Usually.
Yeah.
And she's not been back since. I mean, she's done loads of other TV stuff before her political career, but she's gone. And then, like I said, I think fairly swiftly disappeared out of the conscious of many Coronation Street viewers. But you're a
bit of a champion for her.
I am. I mean, she's also not in my top 10 or 20 or 30 or anything like that. But some characters, when I've been rewatching these old 90s episodes, like Samantha Failsworth, for example, I'm watching and going, I didn't like her then, don't like her now, boring. But I have got a bit of a soft spot for Tracy, for Tricia and Jamie. I really, really do. And I think we were looking through my Corrie magazines yesterday, weren't we, to try and find some details about her, and she got loads of coverage in the Coronation Street magazines, loads of quotes from her. So I've got a few of those that I'm going to read out. This is what she said as she was leaving the role on Coronation Street. I've enjoyed playing Trisha. It's been really, really good fun, and working with Liz Dawn and Bill Tarmey has been such a treat. I feel very honoured that I've been able to work in the Rovers, the heart of the street, and it's been absolutely terrific. She also spoke around this time when she was leaving about the shift in public opinion towards Trisha, like I was talking about before. She started off quite as an unsympathetic character. Public grew to understand her and like her and everything. And yeah, the writers kind of explored the hardships that sort of person would face. It was kind of very, very relatable to a good chunk of the Coronation Street viewership, I think. She said she didn't want to play the stereotypical single mother kind of scrounger sort of person, but just she wanted everybody to know that single parents actually work really, really hard to give their kids protection and security. She said she was a good mother who worshipped her kids and put them first. And that put me in mind of Beth, really. Beth Tinker, single mother.
I don't think she works
rough.
that hard.
But
I agree with you.
I've not seen her doing anything for the past 6 months, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree with you that she's a good mum and she puts her kids first.
I think the comparisons with Beth, I think it may be Beth of old. Beth has just become not that she's been in it much recently. She's just become a bit too much of a caricature, a bit too unlikable, a bit too. You know what I mean?
She's been completely sidelined now.
Yeah, no, she has. But I'm just saying she's not particularly a likable.
No, she's not.
Character at
not
the
moment. No.
Whereas I think.
And also, her child now are much older than.
Than Jamie ever was. Yeah, people grew to love Trisha, and I think people like Beth at first, and maybe not so much these days. But I mean, I think that the parallels are certainly there. That was it for Trisha. She went off. She did lots of other TV. Like I said, she was in like 8 episodes of EastEnders, The Turn of the Millennium. She was in 5 episodes of Emmerdale, just like 5 years or so ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago. She did Doctor, she did Holby, she did other things that weren't soaps as well, to be honest. She did a few crime dramas like
She
Midsummer
wrote some
Murders.
episodes as well.
I know.
Hollyoaks.
I know,
and Family Affairs.
She's a talented lady, is Tracy.
She was in the Full Monty Theatre production.
Yeah, she wasn't in the film. She was in other films, yeah. But yeah, the fact that she actually wrote some episodes of soap, I can't think that there can be many, ex-soap actors who've actually gone on to write episodes of soaps. That's really cool, I think. She's a smart lady, isn't she? But it was her political career that took off, and that's what she's currently well known for. So in 1990...
when did she leave Corrie?
She left Corrie in 1997, and this year... This was the year when she endorsed publicly the Labour Party at the 1997 general election. That was when Tony Blair became Prime Minister.
This was a big deal. This was the
Cool Britannia.
This was when Tony Blair in the UK launched a campaign for the youth vote and to make the Labour Party seem like an exciting and new party for everybody. That's prosperity and everything's cool and we're all wonderful and great and. That they have that
things can only get
better. I remember, and this was the first election I could vote in, so it was particularly interesting to me. And so this was a really interesting time, also to throw your hat into the politics realm, really, especially for the Labour Party. And a lot of people obviously argue about
we couldn't vote in this election. We were 15. Did you sneak in?
Well, maybe okay, all right.
I think you must have voted in one of the re-elect Tony Blair elections.
Maybe.
But yeah, it was huge at the time, certainly. It was all the Cool Britannia stuff, and Tracy Brabin not throwing her hat in the ring, but publicly supporting Tony Blair was a good stepping stone to where she is now. I mean, she was also on Joe Cox's campaign against the closure of libraries in Batley and Speen, which is where she was later elected in the by-election there after Joe's murder, which was pretty big in the news recent. A few years ago, wasn't it? Yeah. What happened there? Do you remember?
It was to do with Brexit and pro-nationalist people, and she was murdered by somebody who. Yeah, that's right. It was a very unpleasant.
Yeah.
Very sad. It's very. Obviously very unusual for this to happen in this country, to have an MP be murdered for their political ideas.
Yeah, so
Tracy... it was particularly devastating. So she stepped up to, because once an MP passes away, obviously their job is now open, and really anybody could get that job. So she went in and. I don't know whether it was a safe seat to get or not.
Well, I don't think the other parties put anyone up against her out of respect for Joe.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So she took up the mantle of that, and she was elected with a majority of 10,000 votes for that by-election.
Yeah, and then last week she was elected Mayor of West Yorkshire, because that campaign's been going out over the past year or so, and I'd completely forgotten about it. I was watching it, from a very far distance, obviously, thinking, wouldn't it be cool if this ex-Coronation Street actress would become a mayor? And then we had, obviously, the elections last week, and I didn't put two and two together until, was it Sunday, I think, maybe Saturday, that the results came in, and it's like, Tracy Brabin's man. That's just so cool. And we were going to do something else as the middle section this week, but we changed it just so that we could celebrate and talk about Trisha. I'm so chuffed about it. And the best bit about her political career, from a Coronation Street viewer's point of view, I think, was this adjournment debate that went on in the House of the Commons in December last year. I think it was the week of the 60th, I think, was it? And it was her and a handful of other MPs who were there in the room, debating on the contribution that Corrie has made to British life, and it was a bit of a one-sided debate.
This was not a debate.
It wasn't Corrie versus EastEnders.
I don't understand how this happened or why it happened. I don't know enough about Parliament, honestly. I watched the reading of the Queen's speech this week, and I was like, oh my God, it's so strange. Have you ever seen it?
I don't think so.
There's a bit where they're all sitting and waiting in the room, and there's this guy, it's a lady this year, called the Black Rod, and she comes striding through, and she knocks. She comes up to like come into the room, and they slam, like it's tradition. They slam the door in her face, and then she has to knock on it and go, "It's Black Rod," and then they open the door, and she comes. It's like,
That's
oh,
so funny. Well, that
really
reminds
theatrical.
me of when. Do you remember the episode when Alf was elected mayor?
Yeah.
And Audrey was just scoffing and laughing at all the silly ceremony.
It really is.
And he has to be dragged in to protesting.
That's true. Yeah. This is. It's really honestly.
Did Tracy have to do this when she was elected mayor? I don't know.
I doubt it.
I love how. I mean, there's been a fair few stories about mayors in Coronation Street, hasn't there? I mean, it's been mostly Alf, but wasn't
Sally?
Yeah, Sally, obviously. And we had councillors, like Annie Walker.
I do think I think it's quite an important thing to have on Coronation Street, because people are very disengaged with politics and they feel like it's got nothing to do with them. So I think it would be good if Coronation Street sort of... Because really, honestly, Sally wasn't a great... what's the word? Advert for what the power of local politics has. Like, she was mostly just interested in wearing nice outfits and going to the openings of things and drinking champagne from flutes, which is totally relatable, but doesn't really tell you anything about what does a mayor do.
No. I don't know how much I learned about what a mayor does from Alf either, to be honest. Maybe Coronation Street doesn't really know. But...
And it's quite funny as well. The thing is about local politics is that you don't have to get into like the Labour versus Conservative or anything. They always these days they run as an independent candidate because they dare not have a character be Labour or Conservative voter because they don't want to alienate people. But it's not to do with, where do you stand on the EU and how badly should we beat the French fishermen. But it's to do with stuff like, who's going to take the bins out, and what can we say, the red wreck, are they going to develop it into flats?
Yeah, save the hairy groundwort.
Exactly.
So this adjournment debate, it was just brilliant. And I don't know whether you can still watch it, but it went for a good hour or so, and it was just them. It was Tracy talking very, very passionately about the impact that Coronation Street has had on society, some of the changes that have been hailed. She talked about issues like Hayley Cropper. She talked about how Coronation Street has helped boost Northern economy. It was around the same time as all the Yasmin and Jeff stuff was really coming to a head as well. It was just really lovely.
It was nice
to hear
to
somebody
see a
speaking
tribute,
so passionately and eloquently. Far more than we ever do on the podcast, to be fair. If you ever want to be a guest, Tracy, just give us an email.
She's probably busy.
She probably is at the moment. Yeah,
this
with
is the thing. Yeah,
whatever else mayors do. They wear chains.
And I thought this was really important as well. And I think some people were like, "Oh, that's silly. Why are they talking about Coronation Street in Parliament?" But really think about what it has achieved. It really has.
Yeah.
And it's obviously not just Coronation Street. Other soaps have also been quite progressive in the way that they help to shape like conversations about really important things, but Coronation Street really is the trailblazer.
It is. It's the trailblazer is right. I was really, really proud of her for
and it's
for
also,
doing that.
can I say, it's also really nice to have somebody who's not in the show, who's left the show, not being like, yeah.
She is a definite champion and advocate of Coronation Street, isn't she? And she's not doing it because she wants to come back and hoping that she's keeping the door open.
She's not like in Hello Magazine going, "Oh yeah, if they'd asked me back, I'd be back with this shop." She really genuinely believes in the power of Coronation Street as a force for good in English and British society, which is what we also agree with.
Yeah, definitely. What else have I got here? I've got a bit about... I don't know why I put this at the very end, but this is a bit about Tracy's backstory. She always wanted to act, apparently.
Trisha. Oh, Tracy.
I keep saying that. I keep saying, which one's the character and which is the actor?
I just got confused because I thought you were going to read these quotes
Tracy
out.
always wanted to act when she was little, but the school careers officer suggested that she become an air hostess.
Okay.
But she got a chance to study drama at Loughborough Uni and jumped at the chance because nobody in her family had ever done anything academic before. And this is a bit like you, wasn't it? First member of the family to go to university.
Or many of people in my generation.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why nobody can get a job with a degree anymore.
Yeah. She set up a theatre and education company to tour schools with a road safety show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then that's how she kind of got into showbiz.
That's cool.
So I wonder whether she liked politics at school. How do you just decide?
I think you just see things going wrong and you think, I can do something about this. I don't. I used to think that I would love to go into politics.
You're good at arguing.
I just don't. I just think it's so disheartening to see people who genuinely would be helped by a certain group of people going, no, I don't think you're for me. and just voting for people that are obviously not for them at all. I just couldn't cope with it.
It's just really cool that as Trisha was kind of an issue sort of character, and then that's the actress who has gone on to become somebody who you would hope would be a force for good for real life people, real life Trishas.
Oh, you know, she's on the bus. She's on the cases for the buses, I've noticed. Bad bus transport links.
Do you want to read some Trisha quotes out, some Tracy Brabin quotes before we end this?
My impression of Trisha is that she's a very strong woman. I think she probably failed the school system, and now did she fail it or did it fail her?
Well,
yeah. And now she's on the DSS, struggling to make it with a young son and trying to be a mother and father to him all at once, which can't be easy.
so true.
What's nice about Trisha's character is that she's so complex. She isn't initially likeable, but when she's put in certain situations, there is a great empathy there, as it could happen to anyone.
Absolutely. She also spoke about like raising issues of working class women being thrown in prison for non-payment of fines, which obviously didn't happen to middle class back then because they would always be able to get the money for it. She called it that like a tax on poverty.
And this was like in the 90s before you had. And also before then, TV was like the predominant form of entertainment for most people.
Yeah.
Apart from books and radio, there wasn't the internet or computer games as much as and even if even if you played computer games, you could get in trouble for having your TV if it was connected to the aerial.
Yeah.
I wonder whether her political career was kind of almost born of playing.
I wonder. That
Trisha.
exactly. I mean, the timelines line up, don't they? Who can say?
Because it does seem like she could very, like you say, passionately talk about the predicament that her character was facing.
Yeah.
I just don't know how anybody could be a single parent. Can you imagine by yourself doing everything
I can't
you
imagine
do
being
now?
a parent, full stop, to
It's
be
hard
honest.
enough as it is. Doing
Hard enough
everything you
raising a
already
cat.
do. I know. She's so demanding. I had to lock her out today because I was on the phone. You can't do that with a baby. But yeah, seriously, single parents. I know it's a bit of a cliche to go, single parents, you're working so hard. But I literally do not know how. You don't have a choice. But, seeing Trisha struggling and working and grafting and it just always going a bit wrong for her,
Yeah.
I think it, adds to the conversation, like I say, talking about and experiencing people's perspectives that you might not ever have a chance to in your everyday life.
Yeah, and adds to the rich tapestry of Coronation Street
such a
as
rich
well.
Tapestry of human,
maybe not,
human condition.
Maybe not one of Corrie's most memorable characters, but I think still important for the time. And
Yeah,
maybe just
and it
talking
really,
about her today as
boost her up. So next
boost her
time
profile.
next time Corriepedia does their ultimate character survey for the 70th anniversary, maybe she'll get higher than
If she goes higher up, I'm going to put it squarely down to this very profile that we're recording now. We did it.
We done?
I think we're done. Yeah, we're done.
Well done to Tracy and Trisha.
Yes, very well done to Tracy again for your mayoral election.
If you want to invite us to tea, if you want to do some kind of
can you provide a limo down to Southampton, Tracy?
I think that her first job should be to promote healthy relations between our two countries of the north and the south of England.
I think so.
We can be the delegate from Hampshire and we'll come and we'll say nice things and eat your sandwiches.
Right, we're done. Thank you everybody for listening. If you'd like to get in touch, if you've got anything you want to say about Tricia, if you've got any fond memories of her, Jamie, because I don't think we're going to end up profiling Jamie. We've kind of covered most of the main things that he did there, but he was really, really lovely boy with a bit of a mischievous streak. That's your
verdict.
10-word description.
Well, we've done
of Jamie.
the character profile of him now.
Give us an email at conversationstreet@gmail.com. If you're not following us on Twitter, you can do so at Conversation Street. No, Conversation Street. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and all the good stuff, and also on YouTube. And you may well be, I don't know, maybe you're listening to this on YouTube right now. Maybe you're not.
Maybe you're not even listening to this. The vast majority of people are.
I think there might be some people that aren't listening to it. But if you are, good for you, especially if you stuck right through to the very, very end.
Yeah.
We do tend to waffle.
Come on, I've got cooking to do.
Gemma's got cooking to do, so we're going to go. Goodbye.
Bye.
Ta-ra, and see you next time. The music for this episode came from podcastthemes.com.